agenda. I know I've got it here somewhere.
We are recording now.
Okay, thank you. So let's start with roll call. Lynn Garlock is here. Alex Zacharias.
Here.
Did I say your name correctly?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, and Chuck Yang? Not here.
He is joining.
Kent Hutchinson?
Kent Hutchinson, present.
And Katie Rise?
It's Reese, but present.
Thank you. Okay, and Beth? Beth is here?
I see Beth here.
Okay, and Matt is here, right? Is Matt here?
I'm
We
not
see
seeing
Matt?
Matt.
No, he is not here, and Chuck is connecting.
Okay, good. Should we just give Chuck a minute, or shall we go ahead and approve the agenda? Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Aye.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Yes, and second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Nay. The ayes have it. The agenda is approved. Let's have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the October 27th, 2021 meeting, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say nay. And the minutes are approved. Okay,
Chair
regular-
Gerlach?
Yes.
I just want to point out too that Roselle is here as well for one of our liaison representatives.
Okay. Oh,
Rizzo,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Rizzo.
I did not when I was reading the agenda, I did not, I couldn't figure out where one name ended and the next one started. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Okay. I think I now have the agenda in front of me so I can look at your faces. Thank you so much. So we are going to our regular business. We have consideration with possible action to approve the call for artists for the Shipyard Underpass Placemaking project. Laura, will you tell us about it?
Absolutely. What feels like 80 years ago, we had applied for and were awarded a grant from the NEA for our proposed project at the Shipyard Underpass. We had initially applied for a lot more, but we'll take whatever we can get. We had received $10,000 from the NEA to create some sort of art, whether it was sculptures, murals. We kept it really vague when we had sent in the application to really enhance the space next to the shipyard. It's located under the Mason Street Underpass. It is eventually it's functioning as parking right now, but it is intended to be extended and be an additional parking space for the shipyard park. And I did include in the packet, there is some images of the site as it is currently, along with kind of mock-up design plan of the site, and I can share some images too while we're discussing it. But essentially, we are ready to release that RFP to start the process of finding artists to hire to enhance this space. And we're going to use a combination of the NEA grant, and then since it is a match grant, we're going to be heavily matching it to really make an impact in the space since it's so large with our block grant money. So that kind of is how we're going to be funding this project. I have it pitched as using $80,000 for the artist stipends. We can either split that between 4 artists, 3 artists, 2 artists, or if there's really just one artist that stands out. We can kind of get a feel for that after hearing community input on what artists they're most interested in and when you guys evaluate those applications at that time. Looking at, and then as far as the remainder of that budget, $2,000 would be set aside as a stipend for a design fee for the finalists that are selected, to pay them for that time and effort put into designing a concept for the site. And then kind of roughly 13,000 left over for signage and printing and any other eligible expenses that kind of come up throughout the process. With the Mason Street Underpass being state property, the order of approvals is you guys will hopefully approve this RFP today. From there, the RFP is going to go to council in January to be finally checked off. After council gives the green light, we will release the RFP, close it in March, and then review those submissions, have the community review the submissions. You guys will select up to 4 finalists to continue forward through the design process. And then at that time, we'll review their designs again, and then that'll get sent to INS, and then eventually through council. And then after we've all approved it at the city level, it'll go to the state, and they will have the final say since it is their structure. I feel like there's something else I'm forgetting. Do you have any questions before I continue rattling on?
And then the gladiators come in, and then the fight for. It sounds like the process is interesting. That's all.
It is. There's a lot of people that need to check off on it, but it'll be good.
Laura, I have a question.
Yeah.
Given that this is tied to the city and to the state, I imagine that there are certain things, certain language that we can and cannot use with regard to hiring. But I wonder if and I'm sorry to suggest an edit, but would it be possible to say that while all applicants are welcome, we are especially interested in women, people of color, and underrepresented artists?
I think we should be able to do that. Cheryl, do you have any other? Because we're not going through like the general, like the typical bidding process.
Mm-hmm. And again, all applicants are welcome, but.
I agree. That would be good to add.
Is the PAC looking to make a preference on that, or just to be inclusive?
Both.
Okay.
I mean, to be inclusive would be the thing. We would be encouraging underrepresented applicants.
Right, but then do you want to give that a higher ranking?
Well,
Question.
I don't know if we are able to. That would be my question. I said, yeah. I mean, obviously, we'd still want an outstanding artist, but
Right.
All things being equal, which they never are, I would much rather see a contract go to someone who maybe hasn't had as much representation in the city.
So that would be, if the PAC would like to direct staff to make that change. If we can't do it, we can't do it. We can talk to our purchasing agent, but if we can put it in. So I would say if that's important to you, the committee, to make that recommendation, to probably do that. And then if for some reason we can't, we can't. But if we can put that language into this.
And, I'd like to just jump in here and suggest that we are going to have the opportunity to select the artists. Will we have that information when we make our selection? Will we be able to make that determination at that time? I guess I'm suggesting that maybe it's possible to exercise a preference without making a public statement that special consideration will be given to blank.
I don't know that I want to say special
Alex.
consideration. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Alex.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Katie.
My suggestion is that we use the language that, again, all applicants will be considered, women, people of color. I mean, I don't know if the city has boilerplate language in terms of how they identify underrepresented groups, but that these groups are especially encouraged to apply. And I know also from doing this that will do very little, but then it is on us to make sure that this information gets out to those artists. But I don't know that I'm advocating for special consideration. And what I hear from you, Len, is a hesitancy to make that public lest there be some pushback. Is that an accurate assessment of your concern?
It is, and I'd like to hear what Alex has to say.
I'd like to suggest that perhaps that your diversity, equity, inclusivity officer be involved in any kind of future policy paperwork that, especially for our group, I think we should look at the verbiage and suggest that henceforth that verbiage will be applied to all future projects. And perhaps again, maybe with the help of your DEI officer there at the City Hall, you can help create that language.
That's a great idea.
I would just like to say that I would like to have an opportunity. I didn't see the RFP until very recently. And so I would like to have an opportunity to suggest a few edits. They're just purely grammatical, like the use of the word preventive instead of preventative and a few things like that.
Lynn,
which I'm not
excuse me,
gonna-
Lynn,
Yes.
can I comment on the diversity and inclusion real quickly before you?
No, I just stop for a minute, please. So what I was going to say is there is possibly a chance to make some language changes yet. Okay, now go ahead, Kent.
Thank you. There's definitely a difference in calls between encouragement and prioritizing, but I don't know if we have it in our ordinance or in our mission that outlines an initiative to really encourage and prioritize BIPOC and underrepresented artists. And I think we should consider that moving forward. And once we have that established, then I think it would be a lot easier for us to put these prioritizations into place and make them active. So I think we should consider that outside of this meeting too.
That would be my question. Do you want to just slow this down for how long will it take, Cheryl, to get that change made?
Oh, I mean, it's just a matter of contacting them. It's actually, I think, more of a purchasing agent in cooperation with our diversity coordinator to come up with that language. I can tell you that when we do RFPs for, let's say, housing developers, when we're doing, that type of projects, we score them on a grid. And you do get extra points if you're a woman or minority-based business, for example. So there is a way to give kind of extra points in a scoring mechanism if that's the choice that you'd like to make.
Cheryl, am I correct that you would have to ask people to self-identify in the application process?
Well, it's part of when you put your application in, if you would like to get the applicant sees the points. Mm-hmm. They usually see the grid on, what the scores are going to be. So then it's their choice on whether or not to divulge that. If they want the points, they'll put a little portion in there which describes their organization and mm-hmm. How they're set up and the diversity within their organization in order to get more points. So that's up to the applicant and whether or not. Usually they do because that's a good thing. But.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the question is whether we want to try to include that in this RFP, or if we want to go forward with it like it is and do that in the future. I suspect, Katie, that you would be in favor of just taking an extra day or two to try to get that into this one.
Encourage.
Absolutely. Yes.
And Kent would also?
Yeah.
Wait, Rizal?
So how many people, how many artists of color do we already have that have done murals in Green Bay? And then if they have all been white, shouldn't we just try and make this one a little bit more specific going into the new year?
I know of at least 2 people who've had contracts for murals in the last year. I'm sure there are more than that. But when you say make this more specific, you mean kind of, well, what do you mean when you say make it more specific?
Specifically be like, yeah, we're looking only for like BIPOC or whatnot. Since, just coming around, like looking in the area, I have seen mostly white artists painting. So like if we really want to go for it, should we just go all for it instead of being like, should we do it? Should we not? Like make this like specific to just people of color.
I think that's not a bad idea. I would want it to be a little broader than just people of color in terms of like artists on the gender spectrum or artists with disabilities. I think in the past, there's been a challenge of there being a pretty limited pool. So I know the Art Garage kind of cast that net for a year ago and maybe didn't have anyone apply. And so they had to cast a broader net. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
How far do we reach out in terms of like advertisement? Like we're looking for artists of color or like LGBTQIA people in the community to do this. Like, how far does the advertisement for that reach out? Like maybe it's a problem with like where we're putting in, like we're looking for this artist to do this and that.
With this call, we're actually going to be setting up a cafe account, which I know Kent has been highly in favor of, since that has a far-reaching audience as far as accessibility.
That would be
And then
national
we're
and international.
Yeah, and then we release all of our calls on Wisconsin Portal, which is set up through Wisconsin Arts Board. And then as part of the grant, we will be reaching out to community organizations like We All Rise and Casa Alba and really engaging with those groups.
But
And Rizal,
you
Sorry, Lynn.
are requesting that this be a Wisconsin artist.
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kent.
Milwaukee is like huge, right? Milwaukee is huge. Then there's like Madison. I mean, I'm sure there's like even some people in like Wausau. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, in Rizal, if you have ideas on how we could reach certain communities, like we're open. We're totally open to doing better at attracting non-white people to the table for these commissions.
So as a person of color, a lot of the ways that we used to hear news of things in the city was like, there was like a poster in like the workplace area. Like there's like a poster in like the break room of like wherever, because some people aren't just artists full time. Like they're also, they have to work. So like, like workplaces, I don't know, a lot of like factory places, there are people who are artists that have to work, like third shift or whatever. Another way is like, if we want to set up like I don't know if this is okay in the city to do, but like a Facebook page or something like that. That's like an easy and like free way to do it. Another way is like churches. A lot of Catholic churches have really big people of color communities that they go to church, maybe put a poster out on like Sunday or something. We're looking for this sort of thing. What else? Like those event spaces that there are a lot of event spaces that are run by Hispanics that have a lot of people going to it for like birthday parties or whatever. Like I know of a couple down on like University Street. It's really just like posters and like word of mouth sort of thing in order to get people of color, and also LGBTQI. I'm not really familiar with that community, but I am familiar with the Hispanic community and how they get their news.
Great ideas.
So it sounds like in addition to a suggestion to revise the language, we're also talking about kind of how we can follow that up with action. And Laura, I think sounds like a lot of that would fall to you. Or is that something we can help with?
If I can suggest, again, I know that I'm assuming that the city is looking at all their policies and making sure that there is language for inclusivity. I don't know if we have done that in particular for this group, just to make sure that the language is there.
Why? Anybody else from the committee or the commission wish to chime in on this before we ask Laura to kind of sum up what she hears and what she thinks we should do?
I have a question.
Chuck.
When I was reading the project scope, I guess I was just trying to understand if the artwork is going to be like, how the drawing at the end of it shows all the different supports for the bridge. Is that going to be based on the artist to decide which supports they want to use? Or are we assigning that to each artist? Will one artist get all supports, or will all four artists get half the supports? Or, I guess what defines where they're going to place their art? When I was reading the project scope, when I read through it, it wasn't too explanatory on, like how it's going to be divvied up to each artist or to one artist as to which supports go to who and what's going to be used and what shouldn't be used?
Exactly, Chuck. I had the same question. I wonder, Laura, if you should share your screen and show us. What do you think?
Yeah. So my screen, it doesn't really have a whole lot different. It's mostly site photos and then example photos of other projects.
Could you just show us the structure and walk us through this and explain the things Chuck was asking about?
Absolutely. And then while I'm figuring out my share screen, even though I should have this down, speaking with Krista, so I think as far as figuring out incorporating that language for encouraging underrepresented applicants, we can do that, but with the block grant funds, we can't show a preference specifically for a certain group. So we can encourage that language. And I think that'll just be something to work out between purchasing and our diversity inclusion coordinator. All right. Here we
And Laura,
go.
you think you can accomplish that in a timely fashion?
I think as long as, I guess, do you guys want to see another draft with that language included? Or just approve this knowing that that language is going to be sorted out between purchasing and our coordinator?
I'm
Shall we
okay,
determine-
pre-approved.
Excuse me, shall we determine that before we go ahead and look at the structures? What are your thoughts on that? Kitty, did you have something on to suggest on that? Anybody?
Yes. I like your idea, Laura, of having your DEI officer look at present paperwork, and adding a sentence or two should not be an ordeal. I don't think it's just making sure. So maybe perhaps if it starts from us, that when it gets to the other folks down the line, and that language. They don't have to worry about applying that language because it's been thought of from the very beginning. I don't know if I'm being clear, but I think if we model it, people will follow.
Alex, are you in favor then of pre-approving the RFP as it stands, knowing that Laura will handle the inclusion?
Absolutely. I know Laura, she'll run with it. I know you'll run with it.
I envision the motion for today, approval with the proposed edits. And then that'll be whatever we go through today. So including the diversity inclusion language, updating information on the site,
Right.
the little spelling errors, all of those things kind of fit under that umbrella of edits. So, and then I'll run through with you guys before you make that final motion, just to check off, like, these are the edits that I will be pursuing.
Okay, good. Are we ready then to move on and have you show us where the artists are going to be invited to do their murals?
Yeah. I guess first off, can you see my screen? See a
Yes.
beautiful PowerPoint? Okay. So, these are photos of the site. These were actually photos that we had sent in with our application to NEA. It's a pretty expansive site. I don't know the exact number of pillars or anything of that nature.
36.
36. Sure, I'll go with that. So this is the site as it is currently. And this is kind of a general site plan of the shipyard. So you can kind of see this is what is going to be built up over time. And this kind of colorful highlighted area under here was just initial ideas of like, oh, okay, we could add some enhancements of some sort at that structure. But it is going to be, this is helpful to give artists an idea of what is going to be there, because it's not necessarily going to be there when they come to create their work. And then these are examples that we looked towards when we were were thinking of doing this project. So some of them, they have enhancements that are actually on kind of the ceiling of the structure. A lot of them are really just on those support pillars throughout. Some of them, most of them, I mean, some of these are one-offs where it's just one artist, but realistically, a lot of these projects are completed by multiple artists, and it really creates kind of an outdoor gallery of sorts with all of these different participating artists. So this is kind of the concept that we were looking at when initially pitching this to NEA. To kind of, oh, Katie, I see a hand raised.
Well, you go ahead and finish up. I'm not in a hurry.
Okay. When thinking about between our selected artists, one, I don't know how many finalists we're going to have. I'm proposing 4, but if you guys, when it comes to the point, and if the community too, they really are just drawn to 3 artists or 2, or maybe only 2 of them are qualified to do the project. At that point, we'll have a better idea of like, okay, we're working with 4 artists, and I'd like to set up a site visit, whether that's in person or virtually through just a phone and video that way, but actually go out on site with that artist and preferably with Steve or someone from Public Works, just to go through that site and talk through the space with those artists. If that kind of helps as far. And I could include something in the RFP that mentions a virtual or in-person site visit to take place. That could be included in that RFP.
I think that would be good. And I think specifying some of the stuff that you mentioned, however loosely you can, that it could be one person doing all of the supports, or that the artist will sign a certain number, because for me, that would really change the scope of what I would propose. Knowing, it could be 20, it could be 2. So yeah, I think that'll allow people to make stronger applications.
Kent?
Yeah, I think we need to hone in a little bit on the format of what this mural project is composed of in regard to the pillars and location. I was considering, like, from a kind of broad motif perspective, what this would look like from a viewer. And I did count from the aerial perspective, there's 36 pillars, and that means there's 72 faces and 72 sides. And that's a lot. That's a lot of square footage. And initially I was like, $80,000. Oh my, that's like, we're gonna have plenty, but that's gonna be eaten up so fast. And I wonder if we want to consider not doing every single one, or if we wanna do every single 36 pillar, we're gonna have to really, I think about the motif and like how it's gonna look from a viewer. And what I'm suggesting then is to break them down into rows, because there's 4 primary rows of these columns. And I think it would look really nice from like the street and as you're walking through, if there was continuity within the rows. So if we select 4 artists, then 1 row would go to each artist, and they would have the flexibility to design a motif, an individual motif that would carry throughout the entire row for 1, 2, 3, and 4 rows. I think that would look really slick. That would look intentional, and it would provide a lot of clarity and context to what we're at from this mural project. So that would be my suggestion.
Kitty, you got some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Kent makes great sense. It seems to me it would be foolish and also unethically. I don't think we could pay appropriately to do all 36 of those. So Laura, you mentioned $2,000 for the finalist workups and then $13,000 for incidental signage. So that leaves about right, $65,000. Is that right? out of the 80,000 you've proposed?
So sorry, the 80,000 is broken up between the four artists. So they would each be getting 20,000 for the project, 500 for their design, and then that kind of 13 left. So the total project budget is like 95 something.
That was, I guess I was just trying to figure the math in terms of what we're asking people to do and like what produce and then the pay, so that I'm squared. Thanks.
Yeah, I guess overall each artist would get about 20,500.
I do have one more question about that. Sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Well, can the city provide support, like, scissor lifts, scaffolding, or is that also going to be on the artist?
So I have that already budgeted into that 13.
Okay.
Most likely we would either be giving the artist kind of additional, like, here's your lift rental money, added on to that 20,000, or we would just set up the lift rental agreement or.
Thanks.
Chuck, you got something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I really like what Kent suggested. That's what I was thinking about when I was reading it last night, trying to figure out how it would be divvied up between the artists, and considering that each artist may potentially get a row and whatever they want to use in that row. But then in the picture that you have on Broadway, looking at there's those pillars that are kind of off the rows, and I remember you had just mentioned previously in one of the other photos how you had like single artists for those like one-off designs. So I thought, hey, that's potential there that like we could assign the rows of 4 to artists, but then if we have enough artists, we can assign like a single pillar that's from those side pillars to the one-off artists. So I guess that's just another potential something to look at, but I guess it depends on how many artists we are going to have and what we can do with how much money that we have later too. So, but yeah, I agree with Kent on that, and I guess we'll have to wait and see what we can get. But I just thought it would be helpful for artists to know what their canvas is going to be, so that they can budget correctly and design correctly for it. That's all I had.
Any other comments about that? It really seems to be something we need to clarify.
I just want to say I agree. Oh, sorry, Kent, if you want to go. I agree, and I think that would be a good addition to incorporate at least some sort of language, just saying that artists will most likely be assigned a row of X amount of pillars, just as kind of an idea of what they might be getting into, and then still kind of back-ending that with that site visit, so that either they can go out in person or we'll go out through video and have them look through that.
And I'd like to ask both Laura and Kent, visioning then that an artist has to use all 4 pillars, or just may use these 4 pillars, but could choose to use 2 of them and ignore 2. I just don't know.
Well, it would be a lot more than 4 pillars, because there's 4, I guess, columns, we can call them. So the 36, if you're looking from above, like I'm looking at this image.
Yes.
So there's 36, and they go in columns, 4 columns. So
Right.
One artist would then have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, around 9 columns. Or 9 pillars that they'd be responsible for if we were to do every single one. And I don't know if that's appropriate. However, so what I'd be willing to meet with you, Chuck and Laura, to just go out there and kind of take pictures and assign like 4 categories of pillars. And then from there, we can take pictures and then really give our artists palette and canvas, so to speak, of what they can be. Definitely need to have that squared away before we go live with the RFP, I think.
Other thoughts? Laura, what do you think?
I agree. I think I like splitting. I don't think we should make it mandatory for the artists to cover all 9. I think it should be presented as, hey, we're assigning you these 9. However you work through these 9, that is up to you. But these are kind of the 9 that you can play around with. But I think with the budget and the amount of space where we are covering, as Ken said, 20,000 per artist, that's going to get eaten up very quickly. And I also want to add too that if we go through and the artist's like, man, I can't cover all 9 of these, like that's just too expansive, too large. There's going to be additional phases of art and grant writing that we are going to be looking at for incorporating more art at the shipyard and at the shipyard site and neighborhood. So if it becomes too far of an issue that artists can't cover all 9 of them and still pay themselves adequately, I could see this being kind of divvied out into phases. If that makes sense.
And correct me if I'm wrong, during the process, when we review their proposals, we will possibly have an opportunity to choose one over another. And that might be one of the things we consider, how much they're using. Is that right? You know that I'm not an artist. Kent, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, that is correct, Lynn, on your last comment. I think that's something that we, as the commission and as liaisons, that's our job. So the last thing I want to pose a question to the rest of the group is right now the RFP calls out stipends for 4 artists. However, we're looking for 4 artists. So I think we want to make that stipend pool a little bit bigger. So I wonder if we could maybe take 1,500 or 2,000 from someplace else so that we get a larger pool of professional applications so that we can actually select. We'll be making the selection, because if we just choose 4, we're basically just honing in on the artist right at that stage. So I don't know if it would behoove us to open up that pool to 3 or maybe 4 more artists and give them a $500 stipend. I'd be in favor of it.
What do you think, Katie?
I just want to clarify. So Ken, you're proposing it would be more like kind of like round 1, you apply as an artist showing past work and kind of letter of intent, the things outlined in the RFP. And then round 2, you get a $500 stipend to do a complete proposal. And then from that round, a maximum of 4 artists would be selected.
Yes, that's exactly right. Usually the number of candidates tapers down per step. So this would just kind of facilitate that.
That's already the way it's structured, correct?
But Kent is proposing that we have more than 4 people in round 2.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're just going from round 1 to the end pretty much, unless somebody blows it.
Anybody else have some thoughts on that? Otherwise,
I'm in favor of that proposal.
Laura. What do you think, Laura?
I'm fine with that. That's kind of why I set aside that 13,000 cushion. Are you proposing 2 additional artists or 4 additional? I guess looking at total artists you would be reviewing, do you want to review 6 artists and narrow it down to 4, or review 8 artists and narrow it down to 4?
Total to hire. 8? Yeah, I was thinking like 7 or 8. So if we could do 8, if we could hire, because I mean, stipends are great. When artists are given money to like think out their idea a little bit more, if they don't get selected, they have a product like that they can take to another client or something like that. So we're paying them to ideate. And I think that's really good, something to come out of RFPs, because it's sort of competition based. But I think if we had 8, that would be dope. Katie, you think 8 too?
Yes. I mean, otherwise, I think not that we really need to consider artist ego, but if it's like 4 from a pool of 6, it's like, oh, you were so close. But I think 8, I mean, honestly, I'll be thrilled if we can get that many people. So yeah, the more the merrier if there's budget to pay for that second round.
And then so my question is, where was that money coming from for that additional stipend? You just muted
Geez, almost 2 years, guys. I would pull that from the NEA funds. Since block grant is a little touchy, I would pull that from the NEA funds since those are more flexible. And then also using NEA. So currently the only two things that the NEA funds are kind of earmarked for would be kind of these additional artist stipends. And then also setting up that cafe account. Setting up the cafe account, that's not a NEA, or sorry, too many acronyms. That's not a block grant eligible expense. So our NEA funds would go towards setting up the cafe account, and it could go towards these artist stipends.
Cheryl, that's good. Works.
It's all about the bucks, right? We got to make sure we have them if we're going to commit them.
Any other thoughts on that? Go ahead, Katie.
Laura, am I correct that the applications on Cafe will be free for the artists? There's not an application fee?
There's not an application fee.
Thank you.
And there's not an application fee on portal. When we send it out on our newsflash, we don't take a fee.
I'm going to predict we're going to get a lot more than 8. I think we're going to have plenty of good things to choose from.
I think so.
Laura, is there anything else that we need to discuss before you can remind us what we've decided here? Or is there anyone else on the commission that would like to throw anything out? Is there anything further that's confusing or worrisome about this RFP?
Just a quick comment, back what Kent had suggested before. Laura, if you're trying to figure out what the wording to use to kind of like let the artist know what their canvas is going to be so they can design. If you need to meet on site, just let us know. I guess I'm willing to meet with Kent and yourself too, or any of the other board members, and take a look and help you maybe come up with language as to what we can put down so that the artist can say, okay, this is what I anticipate my canvas to be. Otherwise, yeah, like Ken said, there's a lot of pillars and columns that they have to, they might be overwhelmed just by looking at it.
Thank you for volunteering. I'm absolutely going to take you up on that. I will most likely set up a meeting with you, Chuck, and Kent to go out early in the new year to get these photos and get it all sorted out so that after council approves it, we can send this out. But those site specifications will also be one of the updates to the RFP.
Go ahead,
I see 2 hands.
Alex?
Mine is kind of dumb. I wanted to add something on the comments, but is that set up in the future? Is there a way to do a comment to individuals here? Because normally when I have these meetings and people, hey, any people have any ideas, it's nice to be able to add, if you can't get your word in, to be able to add a comment.
Like in the chat, the Zoom chat?
I don't see chat in here.
I was looking for that too.
I wonder if there might be an issue in terms of open records and recording our meeting.
Is it?
I would say yes.
Huh.
I don't think you can chat at council meetings either, right? Oh, Gerlach,
I have no
that might
idea.
be
I've never
turned
tried
off.
to chat at a council meeting.
I think for that reason, right, everything needs to be, this is an open meeting. So that might, but let me check, because I think you can do a chat all that would come up for everyone then.
Right.
Shouldn't be an issue, but.
Just another way of communicating.
Yep.
Go ahead, Katie.
Laura, forgive me if this is also part of the plan, but is it Rizal? Is that how you pronounce your name? Okay. Can we get this RFP translated into Spanish and to Hmong?
That's a wonderful idea.
Sorry, I know we keep being like, could you also, but.
No, these are definitely questions that are not questions. These are definitely things that we discuss in our outreach department meeting as far as making things accessible and translating. We do have a contact who can assist with Spanish translation. I think we were working on a Hmong translator. Cheryl, do you know if we had finalized that, or is Faye able to do that?
I think that she did that for us in the past.
Okay.
So that's probably, we can ask her.
Okay.
Anybody else? Laura, you think that's reasonable that we could maybe, when we get all of these other changes made, we could also translate it into 2 other languages? Yes?
Yeah, I think we can definitely look at that. Are there any other edits that you guys feel we should make? Something that I just kind of wanted to double check with you guys is what we are asking of the applicants. Do you feel that there's anything else we should be requesting from them when looking at the initial applicants? Right now, we're asking for a letter of interest, images of previous work, descriptions of each of those images, including the title, when it was completed, location size, all of that good stuff, and then a resume. If there's anything else, let me know. And I see Katie
has something.
Well, I know Cafe is going to have specifications on the image size, and so it might be helpful to put that in there, 1200 pixels on the largest size or whatever it is, so that those are uniform and that they're large enough to see well.
I can definitely include that. And that is something, so Cafe, that's a really good point. Thank you for bringing that up, Katie. As far as submitting this information to Cafe, that's really just kind of a fill in the bubble. So what you guys see on this document, that's not what's going to show up in Cafe. I'm basically going to be pulling the information in here and putting it in Cafe's form that they send out. But this is also going to get sent out through our website. So it'll have slightly different submission requirement. Like, okay, instead of just submitting it, like setting the button on Cafe, you'll put all of these things together and email it to me. So that's a really good point as far as clarifying like consistent image sizes. I can include some language of that sort based on what Cafe is requiring.
Let's hear from Rizal and then from Chuck.
I think Chuck was first. Chuck, you can go.
Let's hear from Chuck and then Rizal.
Okay, yeah, the only question I had also when I was reviewing the agenda was in the budget where we say for the 4 finalists to be given a $500 design fee to develop a proposal, and then that would get considered through GVPAC, Common Council, and then WSDOT. They don't, in our schedule, we're just basically taking their design and then handing it off to Common Council and then sending it to WSDOT for their review, right? So it's not like the artists have to go and present their designs to Common Council or WSDOT.
Yeah, no, the artists will be presenting their information and their designs to you guys. And then from there, the order of approval, basically it'll go to the INS and council saying, this is what the Arts Commission has approved. And then we'll take that saying, this is what the Arts Commission has approved to the state. So yeah, they'll really only be presenting to you guys. Do you want me to include language specifying that they're only going to be presenting to the Arts Commission?
Just I just confused myself when I was reading it and getting too in depth in it, I guess. But thank you for the clarification.
I think it's just important that the artists understand that they present to the commission and then there are other layers of approval, but that not that they have to present at each layer. Rizal, what can you add to it?
Yeah, so I was just sort of wondering if in the application process, we're going to be able to put like restrictions on things that they can or cannot draw, or is it really up to the artist's discretion? You know what I'm saying? Like their design, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, or is that like sort of going through the approval process? Like they're going to show us the art thing. We're like, yeah, this is okay. But like they already went through and like drew the whole thing. And like, we're asking them to go already to like based one, or like, are we going to put specific, like, this is what, because this is like government property. So like there's some things that should be drawn and some things that probably shouldn't be drawn.
What do you think? Alex?
As an artist, never restrict me, ever restrict me. Because the worst that can happen is I say, okay, I'll take it somewhere else, but I think we should, at the end, the committee is going to meet and approve whatever that artist makes, but we should allow the artist to be the artist.
Your thoughts, Katie?
Oh, I just wanted to note that the RFP specifies that we're interested in artwork that is focused on nature, whimsical, historical, abstract. And with all due respect, Alex, if we're paying you, you have to, sing for your supper. So I think
I agree.
We can rely on artists who are serious about this to submit work that is appropriate. But I think getting further down the line, it would be maybe helpful to have something in the contract that says, if once a final design is submitted and approved, the artist is honor bound and contractually obligated to maintain fidelity to that design. No putting penises in at the last minute or whatever. So
I was wondering if somebody's going to come out and say exactly what was on your minds.
I wouldn't say that was on my mind, but
what are your thoughts, Kent?
Thank you. Yep. I think in the past we haven't done that for any of our requests. We've provided thematic intention, and I think that's where we should draw the line. And maybe having something if we ever have a problem where we do get a few phalluses showing up after the fact, then we can probably look at that, like putting in something that would bind them. However, I agree with Alex, like no limits. Like we as a commission can determine what's good and what's not.
I can include, so I'm all for no limits also. But as knowing that we are not the final deciders of this project, that it does have to still go through council and the state, since it is the state's property. I can include kind of what we've had in the previous calls as far as, and this could be something that goes in with, we're looking for art that reflects the environment and is whimsical and stuff like that, but is also suitable for the public space. Something as simple as that it isn't boxing artists in saying like, don't do panda bears or anything like that. But just letting them know that, yes, it's a public space and it's, so it should be suitable to everyone. So I can include something along those lines if we're okay with that. Okay.
Anybody else? Some of you folks haven't said a word. Don't be bashful. Now's your chance. Go ahead, Katie.
Well, I just want to say there are people on this call who I don't recognize and who were not named in the roll call. And I was just wondering if maybe we could have introductions. This is separate from the mural.
You want to do that now?
We would have to open up the floor.
Well, let's get this motion through, I think. And
I guess, do you want to open up the floor in case the public has any input that they would like before making that motion?
Do you,
I motion that we open the floor to our visitors.
Second.
Okay, we have shall we open the floor? All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Okay, the floor is open. So if there's anyone who'd like to speak on this topic, would you please state your name and address and go for it? Is there anyone who'd like to speak? Is there anyone who would like to speak? Yes. Molly, did you want to speak?
Yes, I am representing Mosaic Arts, which
Okay, and your name and address, please?
What kind of address do you want?
Whatever address you want to give us for the record.
I am, I'm the employee based out of Mosaic Arts. So the address is a PO box, if that's what you want to know as an address.
Is that good?
Fine. That's fine, Molly, if you want to
Fine.
give.
Right. I just wanted to make sure that our artists could be represented also, because we have, through Artie Gras, Art Street, Holiday Art Market. I just was wondering to make sure like what the parameters were and who could be included and who's targeted. So then that way I can kind of work with who we work with and then be able to contact them in a way of, because we have artists that are outside of Wisconsin, but if it's limited to Wisconsin, then I know what we can do or figure out what I can do.
Molly, did you want to add anything to what, based on what you've been hearing?
I think all of the ideas are great. I think that it's good. I think it's going to be perfect for the space that's going to be there. And I think that the changes that were suggested make sense as to artist payments and kind of establishing specifics. I think it's a good proposal, and I think that the money will be used wisely.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions for Molly? Go ahead, Katie.
I was going to speak to Molly's question. So the RFP is open only to artists in the state of Wisconsin, so that would eliminate that population. But absolutely, we would welcome your help getting this RFP to as many people as possible, and maybe even sending it out to your network beyond Wisconsin artists, just asking them to send it widely.
Okay.
And they would do the same sort of process, applying with a letter of intent, images of past work, an image list, and so on and so forth.
And I do send out a newsletter when we do have calls. I send it out to like an email newsletter saying, hey, here's a new call. And Mosaic is on that list, absolutely. And I encourage everyone to share. The more people that see it, the better.
Thank you.
Anything else for Molly while the floor is open? Anyone? Thank you so much, Molly, for listening and for chiming in.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, shall we, anyone else want to speak that is not on the commission? I think that's it, right? Laura, do you see any? I don't think there's anyone else here. Okay, so shall we have a motion to close the floor?
Motion to close the floor.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Nay. Okay, the floor is closed. Laura, what would you like to do next?
If there are no more edits, I'd like to run through the edits that we've agreed on, and then make a motion to approve the call for artists with the listed edits. So I will run through those. Sorry.
Oh, you're going to run through them? Okay.
Yeah,
Please.
I've been making notes. And if I did miss anything, or if we think of anything else, let me know. Include language encouraging underrepresented applicants. I'll be looking to you, Lynn, to update any of those small typos and spelling grammatical errors, like preventative maintenance. The next edit is explain how the site is going to be allocated and divvied up. So Kent and Chuck and I will be going on site and grabbing photos and updating that to the 4 rows per artist. Updating the selection to 8 artists to design a submission, and then narrowing it down to 4. Including image submission requirements as far as the size and data needs on that. And then also including language for suitable artwork in the public realm. Did I miss any edits?
I just want to clarify one thing. In the 4th one, you said we'll select 8 and then we'll narrow it down to 4. But in your original communication, you told us we can narrow it down to 4 or 3 or 2 or 1. So I just want to be clear and make sure the commission is good with that. We're going to start with 8, but the commission then can narrow it down to any number they want. Do I understand that correctly? Nope, we can't hear you, Laura.
Geez, I've done such a good roll. Got that Christmas creep on my brain, I guess. Sorry, yes. opening it up to 4 selected finalists and then narrowing it down to at most 4. But if you'd like to narrow it down and have 2 artists tackling 2 rows of pillars, or 1 artist tackling all of them, we can look at those. But yeah, at most 4.
Okay. Everybody understand? Okay, so then we are looking for a motion to approve, to approve, I gotta say this right, the RFP as amended, right? Or do we first have to have a motion to amend it?
Nope.
No, Cheryl says no. Okay,
I motion to approve as amended.
I second.
okay. We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say nay. Okay, we have approved our amended proposal. Phew, that was a good
Thank you, Laura.
discussion. So now we're to informational, the financial report. Laura? We can't hear you again.
Sorry, guys. I'd blame it on not enough coffee, but I've had plenty of coffee. Okay, so in the agenda packet, there was our financial report, but I will pull it up here as well, just so we can kind of run through it together.
Thank you, because every time I tried to access it, Civic Clerk just went crazy and I never got to see it.
All righty, are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we are.
Beautiful. So as usual, I will bumble my way through the financial packet, and if there's anything I miss or any questions that go above my head, Stephanie, our amazing accountant, is also on the call and can assist. But I've kind of divvied it up just so it can fit on the slide here. But looking through at kind of our large buckets and what we have accumulated through the year and what we have expended through those buckets. Looking at our block grant bucket, we had a beginning balance of 88,000. RDA had allocated 85,000 additional for public art, which is what we're going to be using towards our Shipyard project, which we had just discussed. And then expended this year, that's my salary along with the mini block grant projects we've accomplished this year. Our grants, we had a beginning balance of 4,100. We spent that on our rotating art program, but we had also received some additional grants this year, the NEA grant and also a Packers Foundation grant. For donations, that is donated from the Wisconsin Public Service Foundation. That money is allocated specifically for the Embark sculpture for maintenance, so it can't be used for anything else. We didn't spend anything out of that, so it's just kind of sitting there if ever we should need it. And for our Friends account, we had a beginning balance of roughly 21,000. We got some donations in and just some accrued interest, but to maintain that account at the Community Foundation, there are some expenditures of 4,000 and some odd dollars. And this is kind of just a further expanded view of those buckets that I just went over. Here you can kind of see our block grant bucket and how that's all been divvied out. We have that newly allocated 85,000 going towards the Shipyard project. So we have no unallocated funds from block grant. As I mentioned, we have our newly grant from the Packers Foundation, which was specifically for the rotating art program. So looking into the new year, we'll be using that money for our artist payments. And then just an update for our insurance. I actually just got the new quote and paperwork for that this week. It's actually about $50 less than this. So small savings, but savings nonetheless. There's our NEA grant and then the $10,000 match As I said, we are matching it with block grant and then some, just to really make an impact at that site. There's our WPS funds, and then this is our Friends account. Does anyone have any questions or anything? Did I miss anything, Stephanie? I think I got it.
Nope, all good.
Beautiful.
Very good. No questions on the finances? No comments? Thank you, Laura.
No problem.
And do we have to receive this and place it on file, or is that not necessary? No, thank you, Cheryl. I'm learning. And so now we have coordinators report and project updates. What else you got for us?
For my updates, I just wanted to kind of go over the past year. It's the time of renewal and stuff, and just kind of go over what we have accomplished and kind of wrapped up. We put up our 6 rotating art sculptures for the 21-22 season. As I mentioned, we will be going out for a call for those in the spring to get 6 new pieces put up throughout those sites. We installed 2 permanent sculptures, our Inconvenient Convenience piece, the dandelion sculpture over at Old North, and then our Adams Street Selva jellyfish, which looks great. It still is going, guys, every night at around 4, if you want to check it out. We also collaborated with NWTC Artisan Center on their free monthly Artist Journey series, which is an entrepreneurial kind of workshop talk space for artists who learn topics on being an arts entrepreneur. We actually just had a session last night, which I unfortunately wasn't able to make, but it was on photographing your artwork, which is very important for artists. It's free, and the videos are uploaded to NWTC Artisan Center's YouTube page, so people can view it as many times as they wish afterward. And then we also wrapped up our park shelter mural project. We installed 14 murals throughout Green Bay's parks. Unfortunately, one of them has already been tagged. So we are in the process of working with that artist to take the piece down and restore it, and then put in some additional measures to hopefully protect that piece. But overall, considering how long we've been doing this, and this is our first instance, I'd say we are quite lucky. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. And then looking forward into the new, oh, sorry, Chuck.
I was just curious at which location was it that got vandalized?
It's at Fisk Park.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I was just curious on location, which is more odd because I would have figured it had been one of the other parks that are less populated. Fisk Park is there's a lot of people that goes there, so.
And speaking with parks crew and kind of learning more about the nature of parks and users of parks, because we were thinking of should we move the piece? Do we leave it there? But talking with parks crew, there's not necessarily one bad park that's always bad. It could be kind of rough for a couple of years, but then people move out or people graduate, or there's all of these outside factors that are hard to hone in. So a park could be bad for a few years, but then all of a sudden it's fine because someone moves out of the neighborhood or moves somewhere else. So yeah, surprising, but we're working through it. And then looking forward, we're definitely going to be busy working through all of this Shipyard Underpass, reviewing artists and all of that. We'll be looking at the new season of rotating art sculptures. We're also going to be having an intern who's joining us. We're working through paperwork on that. She's most likely going to be starting towards the end of January. I don't know if she's going to be on board yet to join us at our January meeting, But Annalise will be joining us. She's a student at UW Green Bay. She is a part of their Civic Scholars program. And most likely she's going to be focused on updating our public art map and incorporating all of the new work that has been going up. And then also working towards outreach for our How to Art guide. So there's another thing that will be coming towards you guys in the new year, is reviewing that How to Art guide, which, as a reminder, because it's been a while, the How to Art guide was directed from all y'all as a nice, easy guide for neighborhood associations and residents and small businesses. If they want to get an art project going in the public realm, where do they start? So we are working through that, and Annalise will maybe be doing some outreach to neighborhood associations to share the guide and talk to them about how to get public art in their neighborhood. And then lastly, we are in talks, I guess not talks, but we are working with the chamber and BACA on the cultural sector strategic assessment of the area. Don't know when that's going to be coming to you guys, but I know a lot of you are already involved in that in one way or another. So it will be coming as I learn more. We're having a meeting in the new year to actually review that RFP. So those are my updates. Does anyone have any questions?
Alex.
Laura, you are amazing. Thank you for all the work you've done this past year. You make us look great. Thank you so much.
And she's only part-time. Isn't that amazing? Which is just terrific. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. And thank you guys for sharing out everything I send. We got a lot of interest from that community survey that you guys had shared out. It was very helpful, not only for this call, but as far as looking at future phases of art at the development and just going about producing other art projects outside of the Shipyard area in the future. So thank you all for the support and doing what you do, and all of your amazing suggestions and edits and all that good stuff.
Does anyone have any questions or comments you'd like to make as we come to a close? I would just like to, I don't know if this is appropriate. You all tell me if it's not, but it seems to me there's a lot of interest among the commission on that Shipyard project. And I just wondered, Laura, when you and Chuck and Kent go out to look at things, if maybe it'd be appropriate to let the other commissioners know that you're going and allow them to come along if they wish? Is that appropriate or no, Cheryl?
You don't want to create a quorum of the committee.
Oh,
Right?
okay. Thank
So
you.
you could break it up if you wanted to, but you just can't have a quorum.
Okay, never mind. Okay.
I can
Anything else from anybody?
I can send an email update though after Kent, Chuck, and I have gone out, just to let you guys know the setup that we have as an update. But if any of you ever want to meet with me or discuss anything, certainly give me a call, shoot me an email. And yeah, like Cheryl said, we don't want to have a quorum, but we can have meet with myself, but no more than 3.
I'll just throw this in there.
I knew about,
Is that the same would apply if you get an email. If Laura emails the whole committee, never reply all to it, because then you're creating that walking quorum situation as well. So
I generally try to blind copy all of you all in.
Right.
So it may look like I'm only sending it to you, but it is going to the rest of the commission.
okay, good work. All right, so our next meeting is January 26th.
I see Chuck's hand up. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to state that anybody's welcome to take my spot if they really wanted to go to. So I'm not, like I have to be there. I was just wanted to help Laura so that she's not struggling to figure it out on her own. But if anybody strongly wants to be there, they can definitely take my spot.
You have that engineering connection. I definitely want you there. Not that I don't want any of you else there, but we can meet separate if you want. But no, Chuck, I definitely want you there.
Good to go.
Laura, should we plan on hearing anything from you before January 26th as, like an email? Is there something we'll be looking for, or are we just planning to meet on January 26th?
So yes, you will be hearing from me. I will probably try and set up a calendar invite with Chuck and Kent today, actually, to figure out sometime in the new year when we can go do that site visit. So I'll be updating you after that happens. So that'll most likely be the first or second week in the new year. That you'll get just an email update on that. And then after council approves the call, I think council meets the 18th of January. So as what we've all discussed today, that call will be going live in the middle of January, and I'll be sending out another email letting you know the call is live, share. So that'll be happening before we meet again in January. And then you'll be getting the normal, like, here's the agenda, here's all that good stuff.
Okay. Anything else before we adjourn? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, go ahead, Alex.
I didn't get a chance to get on the chat here. Rizal, I'm going to reach out to you. It's nice to see new faces.
I'm sorry, I just totally even missed your name on the agenda because I was struggling to see the agenda and look at faces. Would you please tell us a little bit about yourself, Rizal?
Yeah, so my name is Rizal or Rizal, either way works for me. I'm a musician, so I have a band, Pegasus, and we perform around the area and out of state. Yeah. And so that's sort of how I got into this. I know Kent and I know Alex. I did a project with my sisters with Alex over by the art garage. My God, that was like really long time ago. Yeah. And so that's sort of how I got into this and knowing these wonderful people.
And tell us how to pronounce it correctly.
Yeah, well, I honestly don't have a preference. So if you want to say Rizal, that's how you say it in Spanish, but it's also Rizal is good too.
Okay, I like Rizal. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Thank you for that, Alex. All right, then, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Nay. Okay, the ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Everybody.